who wouldn't take heed, but would do the right things that we can get through this and get rid of it as soon as possible. I ask you to bless each and every one that is here this evening, and may this meeting, as we do, works to glorify you, Almighty God, but that we may continue to build the party and a stronger Barbados and a better BLP, and keep us bonded together in the precious name of Jesus. These things we ask in your wonderful name, and for Christ's sake, amen and amen. Again, good evening and welcome each and every one of you. For those of you watching online, we welcome you wherever you are. It is indeed a privilege to be in the land of the living again this evening and to be among my people. We've lost many of you, but nevertheless, we are thankful. St. Philip West continues to be a very proud parish, a proud community, St. Philip in general, but I'm coming home to the West. This is our people, this is our turf, this is our home ground. And we are very happy to be here this evening and to deliver what we would have done in St. Philip and across Barbados as a whole. I'm happy to see my fellow party members, ministers. We welcome each and every one of you, personal assistants, whatever role you play. It is greatly appreciated. My executive, I want to say a very special welcome to you for the hard work you have done throughout the years, months, whatever. We stuck to the task and we did what we could have done during this pandemic. It was not an easy task. Also, our Minister King, I also want to say thank him for everything that he would have done. I know the pressure is on. Every minute someone wants to hear the minister want this and they want that, but what else can we do but try our best to assist? The word all around is pandemic, pandemic, pandemic. And as we try to preach and speak to others regarding the importance and the safety of this, just like you see that was sown, some is going on good ground, some is going on deaf ears, some are not even listening at all. But may we as a people continue to speak and spread this word for the safety and the protection of each and everyone involved. It is no easy task, and I must say that this COVID-19 is not easy. It has literally brought tears to my eyes after seeing a brother of mine, whom I thought would have never survived it, but he brought me to tears. And as strong and as big as he was and powerful, he cried, and he is now a messenger, spreading the word and begging others to take the vaccine. Because he said what he went through, he would not like anyone else to go through. And I have seen results from him, and I thank God for that. And I thank God that he survived as well. He himself had given up. He called us and he said he's given up. He cannot take this anymore. And after we speak to him, we beg and so on, just hold on, just hold on. And he came out a tough fight, and he's a warrior today and a stepping stone in this COVID fight. And for that, I am very, very thankful to Almighty God and my entire family who supported this. And wherever I go throughout the length and the breadth of Barbados, I encourage everyone, sanitize, wear your mask, and if possible, the vaccine works. I was not forced, I was not coerced into taking the vaccine. But I said, for myself, I think it is better. And I've been around all kinds of people, but I do what is best to protect myself and to protect them as well. Haven't had any effects, and I feel good. I feel like 15, really good in body, I must say. And I want to thank everyone who has been praying for me and everything. And as we interact with each other, this is what we need to stand together as a body. Barbados on a whole seems to be the talk of the town, but we can do it. We can survive it. And I know that we can make it. Those are my opening remarks. Basically, we're going to move on to the next segment of the program, giving you a basic rundown of what is happening within the branch, what has happened within the branch, and how we made it through the branch. Well, I'm going to fill in for the secretary because he was out of the island, so I'm going to give you a brief report as well, and I'll incorporate the president's speech into that. So just give me 1 minute, please. We did some fundraising year before, and it would have hindered anything happening. COVID, would have hindered anything else from happening throughout, as far as branch fundraising is concerned, within our branch. But nevertheless, that did not stop us from going forward, doing what we had to do, in that we would have assisted however we could. The fundraising event was a fish fry. We made something not substantial, but nevertheless, something that we are thankful for. Welcome, Minister Dwight. Good evening to you, sir. And we continue to listen to the voices of the members within the constituency and in the constituency on the whole, and going forward to do whatever we can for them. We know it was hard to go through the constituency dealing with everyone on a one-on-one basis, but nevertheless, contact was made, whether it's through the minister, whether it's through the branch, and all the information put together to see that we got some sort of results to assist each and every one. I know the burden on Minister King would have been, I don't even think that I can describe it, but I know. And it even filtered down to us within the branch, where throughout the constituency, people would have been calling, asking certain questions, and whatever assistance they got, we tried our best to assist. And I can tell you, it was no easy task. These ministers really need a very special prayer because I don't know how some of them survived it. And I also said, thanks to Almighty God that during a pandemic like this, we have a leader like Mayor Amar Mottley. I don't want to blame or judge anyone, but looking back 10 years ago, I said to myself, how would the past administration have handled this? And I think I didn't even want to know, but I felt confident with who we have, knowing that the job at hand, our Prime Minister, Mayor Amar Mottley, is capable of handling it well. It's no easy task. And I think a special anointing. Let me tell you, when you pray at night, pray for the Prime Minister. Trust me. 1 minute you're saying the minister in Barbados, next day Prime Minister somewhere else. Meetings, and all I question myself and say, how can one lady handle so much? And some of us that have 2 jobs and going to and fro, we complain how tired we are and so fast. Our Prime Minister is not a superwoman, and we see how it goes for her. And thank God for the team of ministers that she has in her cabinet that can hold the fort, and they're doing a wonderful job. I must admit, the ministers are doing a first-class job, and I tip my hat to each and every one of them. And I'm asking you, do not give up, because the fight continues. It is a very rough fight, and we must be in this together. To my executive, let us continue to do what we have to do. Let us continue to unite. Let us continue to fight. Let us continue to keep the West together as a positive branch and continue to be the role models that we are. There is no giving up. Amidst everything, we still want to do things within the community, but it is hard. The intermingling, that we cannot do like before because of the COVID situation. And you know, every minute you look around, you see the COVID officers. And in keeping the protocol, we have to be obedient. We don't want to go through certain things. We don't want to be charged, nothing of that sort. but we want to continue to still live life, be careful, and be safe, so that we can live a little longer and have a Barbados that we all want to continue to live in. Another 10, 15, 20 years from now, we still want to be in this together. So continue to spread the word. Spread the word about taking care of yourself, being vaccinated, washing your hands, sanitizing, obeying all protocols wherever and whenever we go out and about our business. Our numbers are rising, but are we playing our part in assisting and getting them down? Don't we want to get back to the days when we can intermingle, have a little party, shake a little waist, everyone is eager for a crop over event, something of that sort. But that can go on the back burner for now. The important thing right now that we have to deal with is safety for our people, safety for our children, and each and everyone involved. We want to see business as usual. We want to see the tourists coming to and fro from Barbados. But as we read in today's paper, that's taking a nosedive as well. Let us do our part in doing what we have to do to get back Barbados to normalcy. We understand that COVID is not going anywhere anytime soon, but countries are opening back up, and Barbados wants to be the same. We would love to have the curfew lifted as well, but are we doing enough? So when we get out there on a daily basis and we interact with whether it's our workforce, our family members, whatever, this word needs to be spread. Though it would have been a bit off track, I'm getting back on track with the business of the branch. The branch have been trying eagerly and however we can in having members to join. We reached out as much as we could. A lot promised, some came forward, and the membership is rising, but not as fast as we would like. Some are eager to be a part of the Barbados Labour Party team because they recognize that we are doing a good work and we are still the team for the times. So who wouldn't want to be a part of a good party that is doing a good job amidst the circumstances? We are going to continue with our plans as the executive meet in another week or two because we have a lot to do. But just sitting back and blaming the pandemic is not going to do the job. We have to get out. We have to get on our own, come together, and make this thing work. I know my executive members, they're more than willing to do the part, going beyond the call of duty, because I've seen it already, and I want to thank them for that also, and let them know that the work gets a bit harder. We also mourned the loss of our Vice President, Margaret Lord, who I know is known to the entire party. It was a tough blow on us, and it really hit home to us. We came together, attended the service and so on, but we still miss Margaret. We miss the bubbly character in her. Whatever event there is that the Labour Party holds, you can be assured Margaret Lord would be there. So what we've decided as an executive is that in her space, we have replaced Richard Carter, who's going to be vice president. He's going to fill the role of vice president while we continue our business in keeping the branch together and carrying out the duties. While I'm going to pause for a bit because we have the Women's League, they're going to offer a presentation, and it's going to be done via Zoom. So while I ask the technical staff to prepare for such, and we're going to invite the Women's League to offer their presentation. Over to you.
evening, comrades. And this evening, my role here is to speak on behalf of the Barbados Labour Party Women's League. We just want to sensitize the membership. What we would have established is that a lot of the members of the party are not familiar with the process and how persons become members of the Barbados Women's League, Labour Party's Women's League. So what we are set out to do, or what we are about to do, we are trying to sensitize the female members of the party to let them know that once you are a member of the Barbados Labour Party, you automatically become a member of the Women's League, and it entitles you to any involvement of any activities that we would host, any programs that we offer. And when we say that, we would invite you then to go over to our social media pages. We would have launched 2 new social media pages, one on Instagram and one on Facebook. The Instagram handle is the Women's League BLP, and the Facebook page is the BLP Women's League. And we would invite all the female members of the party to become more active in the Women's League. We would have realized that we would have seen a decline in the participation of the constituency office over the last few months. We know we would have had an impact with COVID, and what we are doing, or what we have set out to do, we are continuing to have our monthly meetings, and we are having them via Zoom. The next meeting should be next week, Sunday, and that will be done on the Zoom facility. The information will be posted on the social media pages, and again, it is the Women's League BLP Instagram handle, and the Facebook page is the BLP Women's League. This year, one of the events that we would have had, we know we had the onset of COVID from 2020, but what we did this year, we would have had an online panel discussion, and that would have been on economic stability. And what we recently just launched, we would have had a sign language program, and that's being hosted, or I should say being taught by Conrad Sandy Field Kelman. Under the guidance, I should say under the presidency, of Wendy Knight Hunt, we have several initiatives that we would have, or we would like to see launched this year, but with COVID, we have to scale back a bit. So what the sign language workshop that we would have started is basically being done now online. And we would still encourage members to reach out, participate. We have a Google form on the pages. You can participate and you can give us that information. Reach out to the president. You can reach out to the PRO, St. Tomia Worrell, and just get familiar with us. We're here. We're here to help. If you need any guidance, any advice, please reach out. We're here to help. Good evening. That's it for the Women's League.
Thank you so much for your participation, and I hope the women within the Barbados Labour Party will join up and become a part of the Women's League, because this is a movement that plays a major role within the party. So spread the word through all constituencies. Spread the word. The Women's League is open to be joined by all the young ladies in the party, and there's work, all ladies, in the party, and there's lots of work to be done. So we know that all help is needed. We want to get all hands on deck and continue with the fight. I want to invite Minister King at this time to come and share his report with you and keep you abreast as to what is happening throughout the constituency. So put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome Minister John King.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. You know, it really is a pleasure to be here with you this evening. COVID-19, as was mentioned earlier, has kept us apart in more than one way, in many ways to be exact. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that you would come in and you will plan and you would want to execute because of this we've not been able to get them done. But putting all of that aside, I want not just to give you a report as such. I want to have a conversation with you. Because it's important that in life, whatever you do is put in a perspective and put into context. So that a lot of the things that have been bantering about, a lot of the talk and a lot of the other things can be quelled, or at least not quelled, but that people will get the chance to know for themselves where we are, what we've been doing, and such like. So let me go way back. December 1970, a young man, 6 years old, landed at Sewell Airport. It wasn't Grantley Adams. It was Sewell Airport. And this youngster, having experienced some things that probably children should not have to experience at an early age, living in another land, place called England, Birmingham to be exact. Having to contend with going into school on evenings, and I guess none of you have never experienced it. If you don't experience it, you don't know what it's like. But to be going into a school in the evening, I have people refer to you as gollywog, black chocolate, monkey, all sorts of things. And you grow up wondering, well, what is it about me that people could hate so much? They ain't really know nothing more about me. I ain't even know nothing about myself. I'm 5 years old. I know very little. But your skin color, at that time, seemed to be a problem. And so my parents, in their wisdom, decided that, you know what? To save my kids from this, myself and my sister, we're going to bring them to Barbados. And let me tell you, it was liberating, to say the least. To be able to be, one, in a place where most of the people look like you. Two, people did not have a problem with you based on your skin color. And that people were always willing to be there for you. So we're talking about a Barbados where a village was responsible for raising everybody. A Barbados where respect, and I gotta use this phrase because it's one of the things that the older people would say to me over and over and over and over. Respect due to a dog. A Barbados where you felt like you could be anything that you dreamed to be. Now, I don't know how many of you, and I'm talking to the people who are watching this online, talking to those present here, I don't know if any of you really understand what it is that as a nation you have been able to accomplish with little or nothing. I don't know if you understand the kind of life that you've been able to live as a society and really appreciate it the way that persons like myself might appreciate it, because it was normal for you. It's just normal. It's just everyday everything. But those are the things that for me, John King, the person, are some of the most significant things that have brought me to the place where I am today. Imagine, at 6 years old, you're here. If you put John King on a piece of paper, can tell you what it was. Two different types of schooling systems. But you had people, teachers, elders, neighbors, whatever, who were always willing to help. Always willing to be there to guide you. Today I hear people talking about boys growing up on the blocks and they smile. I grew up on a block. We didn't call them blocks back then. but you be out with everybody the same way. But at that point in time, there was something called order. In that when those young men, but older than myself, were about to do things that people my age should not be there, a simple, it is time for you to go home, was enough for you to leave because you knew your place. There was no argument. There wasn't thought. Endor grew up with me in the same place. He can tell you that when they say it is time for you to leave and go home, it is time for you to leave and go home. Didn't quarreling, no discussion. And God forbid you go home and tell your mother, if you're playing the fool, that one of them had to put a lash in your tail, because then it's another set again. Because why would they have to put a lash in your tail? Why would you? I raised you up better than that. For somebody got to think. So I say these things to put things into context. I say the Barbados that we're dealing with in 2021, that is so far removed from the Barbados that I grew up in. It's still the Barbados I love more than anything else. But we are at a precarious time in our development. And the president spoke a little bit about the things that we're dealing with. He spoke about the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been in a pandemic since 2008. You gotta get real. Some people might not like me saying so, but the one thing I know is that in every man's life, you have to stand for something or fall for everything. I choose to stand for something. That something I'm going to stand for is truth, honesty, justice, equal opportunities, and I can go on and on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Prime Minister, Madam, middle. Thank you, Madam Prime Minister, for joining us this evening. It really is a pleasure to have you with us. I think, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time that she's had the opportunity to come up to us for a branch meeting, so we should thank you very much. But as I was saying, that Barbados that I grew up in was completely different Barbados to the Barbados that we face today. It was one where, if we go back to the old African proverb, an entire village raised the child. It is within that context that the John King that you see in front of you this evening at this podium was brought up. He was brought up to be a part of that community. In fact, I dare say, most of my life, I would have been a member of this wonderful constituency of St. Philip West, starting out in Ebenezer and then moving to Cottageville. So I spent all of my life in this constituency. Remember, I spoke to you about being able to be anything that I dreamed that I wanted to be. Having come out of an experience where other people would have wanted to put me in a box and decide that because of my skin color and because of whatever things that I grew up in, that I may probably be only nothing more than fodder for the prison system. It's the reality. This country has given me the chance to be anything I wanted to be. Anything. And it is in that, it's because of that that some years ago I looked and I saw what was happening to my beloved country. And I thought to myself, how can I be of service? How can I give back to a community that has given to me without any conditions attached to it at all? So I give a classic example. When I started out, 1982, fresh out of school, jobs were hard to find. I went to Johnny Police Force, but I had a beard. I remember it like it was yesterday. But I had a beard. And you know when you're young, you don't want to shave your beard. The first time you got some hair around your face, you come on, you want to look smart. So I got into the interview. Never forget it. And I think it was Inspector Clark at the time. He said to me, young man, well, you look like a sensible young fella. You ever see a police with a beard? I said, well, but I ain't the police yet. He said, well, you ain't gonna be nothing either. And he stripped up the application. He told me when you think about it, you go and come back. And I thought about it. I want to be a policeman. And just fresh out of the blue, a telephone call came and said, John, we saw you during Quapova and stuff, and we'd like you to come and work at such and such a place if you like it. And I did. I started work at government industrial schools at 19 years old. Mind you, at that time, students were 20. So you could imagine my predicament in that here's a young person going into work with young people, trying to tell them how they should behave and how they should think. Some of the people looking at me like I was strangling. Well, luckily I'm a piece of warrior myself, so it wasn't a problem in that sense. But it exposed me to a number of things. One, that not everybody has the same opportunities in life. Two, is that you are your brother's keeper. And you can make a difference in people's lives regardless of your age, color, creed, status in life. You can make a difference. And three, that when you see the results of the work that you put in, and those persons who have been teachers in any form, shape, or fashion would understand what I'm talking about. There is a kind of satisfaction and a kind of well-being feeling that there really are no words to describe what that is like. And I felt that I could bring and experience that same thing again by getting involved in elective politics for the very first time. It was a long decision. I sat down probably for about 10 to 12 years, mulling it through my mind. Say, well, is this something that I want to do? Or because you hear so many negative things. And I thought, yeah, I want to do it. Because it's important that my country survives and thrives. And that the generations, the persons coming behind me would at least be able to say that there were some people who cared. And there were some people who would put themselves on the line for me. And so that later on in life, when I achieve all the things that I want to achieve, I will have the same impetus to do the same for the next set of people coming behind. That, my friends, in my mind, is what life is all about. What is it that you can do to make someone else's life even just a little bit better than it was? And sometimes people believe that it's all about things. Sometimes people don't need things. Sometimes all people need is a listening ear. Somebody to listen, not talk back, but to listen. Then to offer advice when it demands it. To action some things that some people might have a difficulty with. Some people find it very difficult to do things that you and I might take for granted. Confront an entity or whatever on something else. Sometimes, especially older people, need somebody who can do that. The simple things. Unfortunately, in this sphere that we find ourselves, it's all about visibility. It's about cameras and Facebook and Instagram and pictures. And I might be all-timers. I might be downright crazy. But I still believe that, Cynthia, if I do something for you, it's between me and you, though. I don't have to go on Facebook and put it up and show people that I did that for you. That's between me and you. And so, that is how I approach life. If I wanted to, I could list all the things that I do, all the things I've done prior to being a politician and being a politician or representative, whichever words you want to use, which makes you feel more comfortable. But I won't. That's not who I am. That's not who I am. And in the immortal words of Lionel Richie, the song called Easy Like Sunday Morning. It's interesting that we are here Sunday afternoon. In that song he says, everybody wants me to be what they want me to be. I'm not happy when I try to fake it. And ladies and gentlemen, I will never fake it. I can't. I can only be me. And so sometimes when you pay attention to the things that are out there, as I do. I remember hearing my colleague Jeffrey Bostic talk about the memes that be out there, the fake news and all of the other things that were out there that would, sometimes dampen the spirit of lesser mortals in that sense. And I read a lot of the things that have been out there. Not Mr. Monsiza thing yesterday that come out in the paper this month. I see that too. That is why he's here. Normally he wouldn't come to one of these meetings, but I thank you for being here with us this evening. But it is important that somebody has the fortitude to speak truth to people. Because with all the fake news out there, people get carried away with it. And we can see what it is causing, not only in Barbados, but in the world. In the world, where you have people witnessing what is happening in front of their eyes with the same pandemic that was spoken about, and actually turning a blind eye to what is going on. In the early stages of it, we saw in the United States of America in particular, bodies being buried in places. People out of fear, not understanding how this thing works or whatever, but not taking chances. Burying bodies without a funeral. Sometimes family members don't even know where the people are. When you see things like that, you have to stop and ask yourself if the actions that I am taking are not look at things in terms of good or bad. I look at them in terms of, are my words, are my actions productive or counterproductive? Because good and bad becomes too flexible. People have all sorts of things. So let me break it down. When we talk about things being productive, what are we talking about? We are talking about your words, your actions, do they benefit the majority of people? And if it's counterproductive, then obviously it would be. It doesn't help. So putting that in context, I decided to get involved in elective politics. Madam Prime Minister has been a friend of mine for many, many, many years. And she would tell you, she probably would have been the most surprised person to hear that I came and put myself up to be a candidate in any election. I didn't have a conversation with her. I spoke to no one. I got up one morning and I decided, you know what? But it doesn't look like anybody wanted to come up this side to run against David Eswick at all. And everybody said to me, but John, it is impossible. You cannot. And I heard it over and over and over and over and over. In fact, at one stage, I thought the only body who had real confidence in getting this thing done was me. But I'm accustomed to being in that position, as I explained to you very early. There have people in life who will look at you and decide where you can or where you cannot go based on their view of you, the individual. And I always love a challenge. If you want me to get anything done, you challenge me. And I see Nigel shaking his head, he would tell you. He knows me from long. And so, yeah, come up to the challenge. And here we are. The challenge now is to ensure that St. Philip West gets all of the things that I would have planned that we wanted to do at the beginning. Nobody could plan for COVID. Can't. But we're in it. And with your greatest plans, one of my greatest plans was, you do certain things, you get familiar with how government runs as a minister. I've never been a politician in my life. You got to learn certain things and you put some efforts into that and you try to get that under your belt and understand how the system works and how things happen. And then you find the opportunities then to get back to your community and you start to push and do all the things that you needed to do. Unfortunately, the best laid plans sometimes can go off course. And there's some things you can do and then there's some things you just cannot do. This job also gives you the opportunity to learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about people. And I can say that the last 4 years have been challenging, but they've been also very illuminating. One of the most important things in anything that you get involved in is that there must be, just absolutely must be, cohesion. You set a goal, you say, okay, this is what I want to do. Your next thing is, why am I doing it? Then your next thing is, how am I going to achieve it? All of those questions or issues must line up in order for you to be able to accomplish the task that you set out to do. If anywhere along the line those things don't line up, doesn't matter what it is in life, it could be politics, it could be a calypso show, it could be a cricket match, it could be whatever. These things have to line up. Because if they don't line up, then that which you set out to do cannot be accomplished. It can't. And so I've had some time to think seriously about where I am, and I mark myself very hard. I really don't take much about what people think, newspapers think, people who don't know me think. I think more about when I look in the mirror, am I comfortable with what I've done? Am I comfortable with the person that I see in the mirror? That is the most important part of any human being's life. Anyone who tells you differently, so be it. But we're here at a juncture today where there are some things that I'm extremely passionate about. Extremely. 166 square miles, 280,000 people. There's very little that we can do because of our size, because of our population, to compete with the rest of the world in what is becoming a very, very insular world. When you think that we should be pulling together, it's becoming more and more insular. And small island developing states like ours are at risk every single day. Not just from the pandemic. Climate change is a problem for us. Being able to give our people the best quality of lives. If you don't have manufacturing is a big deal for you, you don't have diamonds and oil and all of these other things, you're basically depending. You don't have the capacity to export at the prices that big countries can do or to even develop the things the same way. We're always vulnerable. It is in these kinds of territories that you need stability, that you need people to cooperate, that you need people to understand, one, who they are first and foremost. And I said all of the things that I had to say to make this point. As a Calypsonian, it was easy for me to go anywhere across this island. I have a conversation with people. I have a serious conversation with people about anything. Politics, not so much, as I've learned. With the best of intentions, and you want to help as many people as humanly possible, there's still those persons who believe that because, well, maybe they support a different political party or have a different ideology, that you now become public enemy number one. When all you really want to do is to help. You have to ask yourself, is this really the best that you can do under the circumstances? You know, I remember a couple of things that I read leading up to the elections, a couple of things that I've read since then, a couple of stories you've heard of politicians and politics and stuff. And some of them really have left an indelible mark on my psyche. So what is it that you really want your life to be like? You can't be friends with everybody's friend, we know that. But there's a certain level of respect, though, that is, as I mentioned it earlier, the old people used to say, in my mind, is due to everybody. Doesn't matter, color, class, creed, political persuasion, religious persuasion, it doesn't matter. There's a certain amount of respect that is due to people. And I thought long and hard about a lot of things. I've had a number of conversations, and Prime Minister is there, she can bear me out on this. I've had a number of conversations with her, and I know that it is almost like unheard of that a sitting MP would just look at life in the way that I look at it. I'm not a person who has a huge ego. Never did. I've not been accused of it many times, but as I always tell people, don't mix your business, which is the business of showing off what you have, with the individual themselves. Two completely different people. But at this juncture, there are a number of things, targets that I set for myself, which are increasingly more difficult to attain, trying to do what I do here, trying to do what I do as a minister, and other things. There are a number of things also that I'm very, very passionate about where Barbados is concerned. And I'm sure you will hear me say it over and over and over and over, that our future lies with us being able to create new alliances. You will hear me talking about the African continent from day one until the day that my eyes close. Because I firmly believe that I don't want to say our survival, but our survival depends on us being able to engage with the world and not just with a few places that we seem to have been engaging with for a number of years. I want to see I want to see my people thrive. I want to see this constituency thrive. I want to see Six Roads become a hub of business. I want to see our young people get involved in things that bring people together. That's what my life is always about. How do we bring people together? Not push people apart, but how do we bring people together? Regardless of political persuasion, regardless of color, class, creed, these things, how do we bring people together? That is what I've been all about all my life. Those are the targets that I set for myself as such. And so, it is in that, and in having these conversations with the Honorable Prime Minister, that I made a very firm decision, and she's been at me all the time asking me, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I had to remind her that Are You Sure is the name of the first song that I recorded with her many years ago. But I am sure. I am proud. I have been privileged. I want to thank all of you, branch members, those people who came out and worked increasingly hard, those persons who up to today have been calling. You saw Mr. Mosey's newspaper article and been calling me all day long, trying to figure out, well, John, what's happening, and is this true, what we're seeing or what we've been hearing, and all this stuff. I've made a decision that come next election, I definitely will not be seeking re-election. I believe that I still have a lot of things that I would like to accomplish within St. Philip West and across Barbados for the 300,000 plus people that we have in it. But I think that I can do that in a different way. And so, Madam Prime Minister, I know that you have, you ain't get down on your knees and beg me, but you've been asking me time and time again if I'm sure. And I want to say here and now, I am sure. But I'm here for the people of St. Philip West regardless. I've always been there for the people of Barbados regardless of what position that I find myself in. But I think going forward, St. Philip West needs somebody different. It needs something different. And I'm not one who fools myself about certain things. I know who I am. And I know when I set certain targets for myself, I either have to be able to hit them. I have to be, I'm not that I'm a control freak, no, but it is difficult when you have been in, I don't want to say just the private sector, but when you've been working at the helm of something all the time and you develop certain ways of getting things done, and you have to, it's hard to break away from those things, to break away from who you truly are. And it is interesting that we find ourselves, only last week I smiled and I thought, wow, here we are debating integrity in Public Life Act. And I heard people, I think I would have mentioned it to Honorable Cynthia Ford as she was there. When she spoke about it, even in things, people taking that brush and just doing everyone like this. You know, all politicians are whatever the negative thing is. And if there's one thing that I pride myself on being, is that nobody, no person ever in the history of myself has ever accused me of being dishonest or looking to steal money or looking to do things that are underhanded. None of that. Not a boy. And so my reputation, my integrity is more important to me than anything else. I've worked too hard and for too long to put myself in good standing in this country. Just think about it. Some years ago, I got one of the Independence Awards for my contribution to the country. It wasn't given to me because I steal. They didn't get it to me because I'm vagabond. They didn't get it to me because I'm a kind of fellow who cuss people and carry on and whatever. We don't get awarded for those things. It was given to me because of how I would have lived my life and how I interact with people and how I try to set an example not only for myself and my children, but for anybody that I come into contact with who understands what it means to grow up against all the odds. Where everybody got basically the idea that you probably will amount to nothing. And so, with that, Mr. Mounsey, you made my life a living hell yesterday. Every 5 minutes, on the telephone, he wants to know what I'm doing, and if I can give him a statement and all kind of things. And as I said to you then, I had no comment then because the kind of person I am, it wouldn't be right for me to give you a statement and not speak to these people, the people who voted for me, the people who work with me, and the people who continue to work with me first. So sir, it's not that I won't want to say anything to you, but I think there's a level of respect that is due to those people that I have to give to them first. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm still at your disposal. We've got work to do in St. Philip West. a lot. You know me, I always quarreling about roads. I quarrel about everything. I don't come out on the road and quarrel in front of people, but my colleagues will tell you that I quarrel every possible day. Because it's important that if you're going to represent people, you represent them in the best way that you can. Can we get everything right every time? No. But can we do better every time? Yes, we can. And can we ensure that those people who sometimes feel marginalized and feel like if nobody cares, can we do the small things that make them feel like, yes, somebody does care? Yes, we can. And this party, the Barbados Labour Party, will continue to do those things. I will continue certainly to be a part of this party and to give the best that I can at all times to whatever it is that is required of me, be it here in Barbados or be it be anywhere I go in the world. I represent as a Barbadian, as a man from St. Philip with a Bajan accent. That will not change. If I talk to the Queen of England, she will know that I come from Church Village, Cottageville, Ebenezer, St. Philip. She would know. Because that's who I am. That's how proud I feel about where I was raised up. That's how I feel about the people that I come into contact in this constituency. And I must tell you, people have embraced me in an unbelievable way. And I want to thank them. Some people might misunderstand me because, you know, I'm not a hug up, love up, feely kind of person. I can stand up and talk with you for hours on end and try to help you as much as I can. But at the end of the day, the people in the constituency must come first. They must come first. And any decisions that I make, they will always be first and foremost in my mind. I spoke to the Prime Minister. I told her, I looked around, and she will tell you whom I recommended to be here. But I want you to know that until that bell is rung, we're going to church now. Until the roll is called up yonder for the next election, I am your duly elected representative. And we, myself, the branch, our well-wishers, or whoever else, we will get the things that we promised you that we will do. We will get them done. It means that I may have to quarrel with some of my colleagues a little bit more, but guys, prepare yourself for it, because I have to leave with my integrity, and my integrity is finish the job you started. So ladies and gentlemen, we as Barbadians, we've got a lot to do. Yes, there are different political parties, we got different religions, we got different colors, we got different classes, we got all of these differences. But it's time for us to start to concentrate not so much on the differences, but on those things that we share in common. That common thing is we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. I do not want to hear another person from anywhere telling me any foolishness like, oh, that person yonder is a DLP, don't go at that out. Don't want to hear it. Don't come to me with it. I've never been like that. Tell people that from day one. Do not come to me with it. I am not that kind of a person. If that's what you want, that's at you. But it would not happen with me. Because at the end of the day, and I'm sure Prime Minister would agree with me, and I'm sure my other colleagues would agree with me, you take a look around. We live in a part of the world where we are subject to hurricanes, floods now, and God knows if Kickham Jenny had to kick up, what else will happen? Are you going to tell me that if something happened, that the only people that your representative supports to get it is the people who support my party? It don't work so. There's a time and place for everything. When the time comes for you to put your X where you want to put it, in a democratic society, you put it wherever you want. That is entirely up to you. But Cynthia Ford, Dwight Sutherland, Honorable Mayor Moore Mottley, they can't pick and choose who to get help. And we've got to get past this madness. So that if somebody come and knock on your door looking to help you, you don't slam the door in the face. Because you never know when you will need that person. Or you can't even believe that the only people that you're supposed to engage in is the people who support you. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. And so for those people who think in those terms, I would beg you, even if I had to go down on my knees in front of the camera so they could show it my CBC tonight or tomorrow, I would do it. Because we need to move past these things. I understand politics well. Some people say, well, you're a greenhorn, but they're singing about it from 1982. And you got to study it in order to write things that make sense. You cannot study it. Because you will sing foolishness and people laugh. So you got to understand it. But at the same time, as a person who's been in social work and other things, you also got to understand people. And I'm not going to go on much longer because Prime Minister has to speak, but I want to leave this with you. This country is on a slippery slope. Because for some unknown reason, we are seeking to politicize every possible thing. From a pandemic that is killing people before your very eyes, to a crop over festival, to cricket coming in next year as a sports. You cannot politicize everything. There is a time when you are called upon to think and act as a Barbadian. I challenge you. I challenge you. The same way that you like to challenge me. Same way that Mr. Mosey, you like to challenge me in the newspapers. I'm challenging you as the press. Challenging you. Step up to the plate. Step up to the plate. This country needs you now more than ever. Step up to the plate. Don't get caught up with this sensationalism and all them things. No, we don't live in America. We don't live in Europe. When this rock gone, very few people in this room, very few people in St. Philip West, very few people in St. George, very few people in St. Thomas, very few people anywhere across here could pull out another passport and go somewhere else and live. Can't. This is ours, and you have to take care of it. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister King, for your revelation. It actually has me a bit on the back burner, pushed back a kind of way. A little tearing up from the eye, but from the heart, because one thing that stood out most about you when you spoke, when you first came during the election, on every platform you would have said, I am here to represent Barbadians. Whether you are a Barbados Labour Party, Democratic Labour Party, at the end of the day, you are a Bajan. And whether you said it on the platform or not, I reminded you, I said it behind you as well, and I would have seen it. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the executive and the branch to wish you the very best in all your future endeavors, and to let you know that we have your back. We will always have your back. And on behalf of the constituents of St. Philip West, for the sterling work that you would have done throughout your very short tenure, it was, it has, and it will be greatly appreciated. And I pray God continue to guide you and guide your steps as you continue on in life. I wish you the very best, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, the featured speaker for this evening, we welcome no other than our very own well and beloved Prime Minister, Mayor Amor Mottley.
Thank you very much, Denton, Mr. Chairman. And thank you very much, John, for the speech that you gave, which was truly from your heart. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of St. Philip West, other members, those who are watching us on the electronic media, given our adaptation to this hybrid model of meetings that is now our lot in the middle of the new world in which we live of the COVID-19 pandemic. I really want to start this evening by thanking all of you, those who have braved it to come here, but also those who are listening on the internet or on Zoom, and to say that I know that you would want me, on your behalf, to start off this meeting by continuing to thank all Barbadians who, in the midst of this extraordinarily difficult time for our country, continue to play their part. And I want to contextualize it because, you know, it is easy to take it for granted because day by day we go about our business and we do what has to be done. But we've been doing this, and the officers in the Ministry of Health, and the doctors, and the nurses, and the orderlies, and those who clean, and those who make sure that all of the supplies are there and everything, they've been doing it every single day. Every single day for what is effectively now almost 22 months. That's a tall order. And it continues to require our support to them. It is exceptionally challenging. We're not overwhelmed, but it is exceptionally challenging. And I only ask any of you in here to think about what it would be like for you to have to do something over and over and over and know that you really can't ease off, because easing off has consequences. And that in and of itself tells us specifically what we are up against. And I say this because COVID, in a very real way, has affected us and changed so many things. We were so lucky, I swear, that we were able to do our work in time as an administration. There's so many nights when I go to sleep and I think, had we not moved 1 week after we came to office, in fact, if you really want to be accurate, 6 days. 6 days. On the 31st of May, when I spoke to Madame Lagarde, she was at a G20 conference. I'll never forget it, 7 o'clock in the evening. Governor of the Central Bank, Professor Passau, the Director of Finance, a number of them in my conference room. we were not yet a 7-day government. And we didn't lapse because we came to this job prepared, recognizing that the order of the day required urgency, required discipline, required strategic focus. And I give thanks for that. I give thanks also, as you would have heard me reflect this week earlier when I went on Brass Tacks, for the fact that the country came together, as John said just now, as one. And the first thing we did on the morning of the 28th of May was to bring the social partnership together and say, who in here want to save the dollar? That's a fact. And every man and woman literally put up their hand. And we went round the room one by one, by one, by one, by one, asking what were the top 3 things that everybody felt should be done. And as with most things in life, 3/4 of what everybody said was more or less the same thing. And therefore it began and allowed us to create that platform for the urgent action that we had to take. And people the world over marvel at the fact that we were able to do so while still meeting people's basic needs, such as literally giving public servants who had not had a wage increase for almost 10 years, a 5% wage increase, giving people the opportunity to have buses again so that they could go to work and go home and go to school in a way that we now have the largest amount of electric buses of any country per capita in the Caribbean, and absolutely. Same thing with the garbage trucks. Same thing with the equipment for the Ministry of Public Works, over $10 million in equipment for them. And I can go on, but the important point is this. I'm just using this to contextualize the moment. As we were ready to boom, to take off and to focus completely on the execution of projects and growth, as we had unemployment down to 8.9%, as we were able to remove the strictures that would have hobbled us in respect to what we had to do with the debt, boom, COVID come. And luckily, even though people were saying, well, it ain't really hitting us, my team in the Ministry of Health were working from day one in January 2020. Working flat out, preparing. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that that absolute dedication to planning and that commitment to do that which we could as a small state, don't get tired, because smallness is very much our reality, that we were able to put things in place that have allowed us, I believe, still to perform better than most and to continue to hold our own, even though we know it is difficult. And we know that it requires personal responsibility and leadership at all levels. Not just leadership at the level of a political party or the level of cabinet, but leadership at every level of this society now, where people have to be encouraged to remain focused, to remain optimistic, to understand that we are closer and closer to being able to get some level of normalcy back into people's lives. It's not going to be the old normal, because the old normal is impossible in a world where there is no guarantee of what next year may look like, largely because of the inequity, both in respect of the distribution of vaccines, but also the very real difficulties in the world in which we live. This afternoon in St. Michael, the rain come down hard, short, sharp, and hard yet again, over and over. This is not the kind of patterns of rainfall that we are accustomed to in this country. This is what I associate with Miami and Jamaica because of the heat. When the chief, pass that phone there for me, please. No, the other one. Thank you. When the chief Met officer sent us today the map for yesterday and the temperatures across this country yesterday, I understood that we continue to be right to make the kind of speeches and to do the kind of aggressive argument and advocacy on this issue of climate. Look at this. Up this side of the island yesterday, 32.3 degrees. Little less as you go east in St. Philip, 30.8. In St. Michael, on average, 32 degrees. Center of the island, St. St. George and St. Thomas, Dwight and St. 31, 32 degrees. When we start to get now to northern St. James and southern St. Peter, 34.4 degrees. You all understand that we're living in a different world? And therefore, when I contextualize all of that, and I recognize that as we move about, the world is not going to be able to have the luxury of meeting the 1.5 degrees to keep people like us safe. And they've already, when Glasgow comes up in 2-3 weeks' time, you're likely to see the world settle at 2 to 2.4 degrees. Mr. Monsi, these are the battles we got to fight now. And we need every Barbadian to understand that chances are we are going to have anywhere between 12, 13 years and 17, 18 years to adapt to a new reality. And if you think that's a long time, just think what you were doing in 2005, 2006. Time on like that. And what we have to do in that time, we got to build up coastal defenses. You've seen us start already with building the boardwalk and different groins and different things to protect how the waves come on the sea, to protect us from the coastal erosion. And why? Because if we get bad coastal erosion too, and if we get salt water going into the aquifers, you will not be able to use those aquifers for fresh water, and the country already has a water crisis because, as we've known for some time, Barbados is one of the 15 most water scarce countries in the entire world. And when that is compounded further by the climate crisis, you understand what we have. So that the things that have challenged us, and I can go on and on, we need to build check dams to stop the flooding because of the extraordinary greater intensity of rain, as we saw, harder, sharper rain, quicker floods, unless we do things to adapt to it, to make sure that the rain does not now wash away people's houses or wash away people, as we saw with Karoo. We have to deal with augmenting the water supply generally from the groundwater crisis that we have. We have to deal with the fact that little Elsa, I call it little Elsa, because when Elsa went over us, it spent less than 2 hours. Can you imagine if Elsa had spent 8 hours or 10 hours, or God forbid, the 2 days that it spent over, Dorian spent over Bahamas? And if in less than 2 hours, 540 rooftops, William, roughly new, as well as what? It was just under 2,000 houses to be repaired. And when you compare and add all of these things together, believe you me, you are having the opportunity now to see real time what the climate crisis means when we talk about it. Now, why am I saying these things here this evening? Because at the end of the day, I understand more than most that the last 3.5 years have been exceptionally challenging, and that what we need Barbadians to do is to exhibit that leadership from whatever station in life they are, recognizing that without that, this country, as will others, we will be compromised going forward. And this week, when I met with the Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris, I was truly humbled to do so. And I acknowledge the many, 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 many messages, both locally and outside, that would have been grateful for the fact that we are starting to put our case in a very clear way as to what we need, recognizing that if the world is not going to meet the 1.5 degrees, then we need all of the world to recognize that we have to put funds for adaptation because the money that it is going to take to do those things, protecting coastal defenses, protecting the aquifers from saltwater intrusion, protecting the country from the from the flooding that is coming from up the hills, whether it is St. Thomas or St. Andrew, or parts of St. Joseph, parts of St. Peter and northern St. James, whether it is also trying to get as many houses, because since Hurricane Janet, all the flat roof houses, yes, we got to go through literally and get persons to be able to tie down their roofs and to take the large overhang that they have. If you have an overhang that is 6 and 9 and 12 inches, Dwight would tell you, you're in trouble. And in some instances, we have to get people to change their roofs. That's why we have chosen for our transformational project from roofs to reefs. How many of us know and go when you're going to sea, you don't see sea eggs, you don't see cobblers like you used to when we were kids? You don't see the coral, you don't see a lot of things have died. How many of us now have to put up with the indignity of the smell of the sargassum weed coming in large measure from between Brazil and Africa? My friends, sometimes if you didn't pinch yourself, you would think you were in a science fiction movie. A lie? And therefore, I understand that it has been hard. And it is against that backdrop, in thanking all who are doing this relay race. This is a marathon. I understand that we have to be able to accommodate people at all levels. And therefore, John's speech this evening has not, obviously, as he has told you, come as a surprise to me. We've been talking about this now for just under a year, and we recognize that there are some things that he is very passionate about, which I am equally passionate about, which I can't get to spend as much time because I'm literally trying to fight the major areas. And we have agreed that his passion he feels can be better spent in helping me in the Ministry of Culture to do some serious things that are necessary to build a platform to reclaim our Atlantic destiny. This country will bring to an end on Wednesday 396 years of, or start the process, I should say, of bringing to an end 396 years of British monarchical rule. And it is the ultimate statement of confidence at the individual level. Our road to independence, led by Mr. Barrow, was a major, major step and literally put us where we could control our destiny. But that came after Grantley Adams also gave Barbadians the right to vote. Because if you didn't have the right to vote, you couldn't choose a government with Mr. Barrow and Mr. Adams and the rest of them in. That would have said we have the confidence to become an independent country. And all that we are doing now is the most natural step to be able to say that a Barbadian should be a Barbadian head of state. I don't know who else it could be. And therefore I say, with no offense to others, that administration after administration after administration since 1998 has promised this. Okay? At one stage, there were persons who felt that there should be a referendum, but the broader referendum goes, I believe, to other things that were not yet settled. And all that we have asked the country to do with the legislation that has passed is to agree that a Bajan should be the Bajan head of state. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. But we've been doing that. We're also trying to build a bridge to certain aspects of our cultural heritage. Because if we don't get it done, there is a major project that we're undertaking with respect to the archives. Barbados has the second largest transatlantic slave records in the entire world. Can I repeat myself? The only country that has larger records of transatlantic slavery than us. Get a guess. The British. The British. So that in terms of those of us who were the subject of exploitation, we have the largest transatlantic slave records in the world. And earlier this year, The ones in South Africa, quite a few of them burnt. And it sent chills through my body. And I called John, and I said, John, boy, this project has to move now, because this goes beyond our generation. This goes now to the legacy of this country. This goes now to the foundation that this country must have. And there are a series of projects that are interrelated that I've asked John to work with me on to make sure that day by day by day, along with the other ones that I have others working on. And I'm satisfied that he can continue to do that from where he stands. He enjoys my full and utter confidence. But I also understand that I am the daughter of Elliot Mottley. And my father, John, like you, started a journey of representational politics and didn't quite like it in the same way that his father, or clearly his daughter, but it's true, like it. And you can't want any closer genealogy than that. You can't. But that never stopped him from continuing service to his country, and it will not stop John King from continuing service to this party, to this country, or to this constituency. And you know me, I can drop it sometimes very real, because it is what it is. And I have seen people in this country serve both political parties at all types of levels. I've seen some who have never faced an electorate yet, who call real shots in shaping policy and also shaping and strengthening the institution of the party and the transparency and the democracy within the party as well. I've seen others come and have a complete love for representational politics but never serve as the cabinet. Reynold Weeks was one. People have different aspirations. Many people may not know this, but if Tom Adams had lived, Tom did not intend to run in the 1986 general election. Sorry, he didn't intend to lead the party in the 1986 general election, but had discussed with some running and sitting as a backbencher. So that I want us to properly contextualize this and to say to you, John, as you correctly said, I thank you for the service and your continued service. But whenever that time the bell is rung, I don't know, I didn't talk to the person who's responsible for ringing it yet, but when I talk to them and get a little idea, I will let you know. But suffice it to say that the commitment that you have while being honest, because there are some people who will tell you otherwise. I look at persons, and many, the hardest thing in the life you have is to look in the mirror and to know yourself and to understand yourself and to know what you can and cannot do and what you will and will not do. And I want to thank you, John, from the bottom of my heart. As he said, I didn't know John King. John King and I have been working together since 1990 or 91, when we first had the band Signature. That's why he can laugh and tell you about our song, Are You Sure? Because that was the one and the most successful one that we had, perhaps. But the bottom line is that I thank you, and that the fact that you will continue to work with this government, with this party, with this constituency is an important recognition. And it's the same with Jeffrey Bostick. Jeffrey's decision not to run has not come as a surprise. Ironically, Jeffrey was talking to me about this before COVID. And it is against that backdrop that I will forever have the greatest respect for Jeffrey Bostick. Because for a man who knew he was not running again, and for him to pull out the stops that he has been pulling out and working at the pace at which he has been working without rest or respite, requires my strongest and complete respect. And I know he has yours.
That's right.
And together we will continue to uphold him in prayer and to let him and his entire team know that the challenge that they have is the first in a century. Doesn't happen regularly. It's one in a century event. The problem is that if we don't get these things right, as I've told you, I'm working on some other things too that can cause us real problems because of the extent to which our bodies are also resisting antibiotics, because of the abuse of antibiotics, not just by human beings, but also with industrial agriculture, both livestock and crops, and then it run off. So when you consider the kind of world that we are living in, it is our duty as a country, as a government, to keep the people of this country safe. And we will continue to do so while at the same time offering the level of representation at the community level, at the constituency level, at the individual level that we have to do. And that's why I've been telling the country we are now in a marathon, not a sprint. And we are more than a one-issue country. Now, the difficulty is that we are in a surge. There's no doubt we're in a surge. Everyone knows that. And we know that the surges come, they hold, and they come back down. And I've had to talk people through it, because the first thing that I want you and us to understand is that we're never surprised by what we expect. Never be surprised by what you expect. You heard us speaking and saying that, look, Delta is not Alpha. Delta is contagious. And Delta is going to hurt you most where it really hurts, in your houses. So it only needs one person to bring it in, and bam, everybody got it in the house. That's why we ask you three things. One, get vaccinated if you can, please, and protect yourself. The first duty you got is to protect yourself from head to toe. And there's some people I know who frighten for needles. They get that. But being frightened for needles, tell somebody come and go with you. They say that is why Caribbean people don't have no problem with heroin. But it's true. Because Caribbean people don't like needles. They will deal with other drugs, but they ain't dealing with heroin. And I'm saying this in a very real way. Because every time I go to take blood, every time I go for a vaccine, them on this arm, I saw. Eyes closed. Yeah, you saw me. So I am playing. And I know there are a lot of men like me too, and a lot of older women like me too, and a lot of younger ones too. But it may not be your first choice. But when all is said and done, you realize it is the only choice. You understand what I just tell you? It may not be your first choice to want a vaccine, but whenever done, it is really your only choice to protect you from serious illness and possibly to protect you in terms of being able to save your life. We ask you to observe the protocols, and we ask you equally to recognize that you really have to look out for the people around you. Sometimes, not everybody got the same willpower. Not everybody got the same commitment to being diligent about sanitizing and things. If you know a man around you that he don't like to sanitize off, just put the sanitizer in his hand every 15, 20 minutes. Don't wait for you to ask. Just do it with me too. Don't wait for me to ask. Just come and drop sanitizer in my hand all the time. Because they know that I like to talk and move around with people. I'm saying to you, sometimes we have to save ourselves. And therefore, if we can do those few things, it will allow us to make sure that we can get on with dealing with other people who got diabetes, and who got heart condition, and who got kidney problems, and who had a stroke. Because if you're focusing all on one side, you're going to end up forgetting all these people on the other side. We can't do that, especially since we know that, and every death is too much, but we know that COVID is still not responsible for the most deaths in the country. And we have therefore to be able to lead at all levels to try to get people to protect themselves. That's why I say leadership is at every level. It's at the level of the community. It's at the level of the football team. It's at the level of the cricket team. It's at the level of the church. It's at the level of the club in your workplace. A lot of workplaces still got clubs. And that's why the government is moving to create these safe zones, because the ultimate objective is to be safe. not necessarily to be vaccinated. We would like you because we believe that's the best way. But we also understand to force people on 166 square miles will bring divisions that will last way beyond our being in government. And pick up any report from any international institution or any credit rating agency. And what's the first thing they say about Barbados? Over and over and over. Barbados has a large amount of social capital. Barbados has a high degree of trust among people. Barbadians work together. If we give it up, there is no guarantee that we will fight off COVID, but there is equally a certainty that we will be a divided society going forward. And I started talking to you this evening about the first few weeks of this government because I needed you to understand that the most important thing is to let Barbados fight its battles that are big battles beyond us as a united country. That is why we have come to office, to fight those battles on behalf of each of you, but we know we have to do it by giving us a realistic chance by being united. And I, therefore, have come to understand equally that you have to pick horses for courses. And that if people are comfortable doing a particular thing, I always tell them straight, if you fire in the belly there, I don't have to worry about you, because I know you can go the extra mile or 2 or 3 to do it. And I know that John's fire in the belly is for those things that we would like to achieve in the next few years. Because, let's be straight, COVID has taken 2 years effectively from us in terms of our development program. 2 years. But I have still in us the confidence that the things we came to office to do can be continued to be achieved. And in fact, need to be achieved all the more reason now because of the difficulties with the pandemic. Because of the fact that unemployment went from 8.9% up to over 18%, and it is back down to just over 15%. Because of the fact that we've had to recapitalize the National Insurance Scheme, the Unemployment Benefit Scheme, and going towards the same with the Severance Payment Scheme. Because we have had to literally hold strain while tourism workers have had to be out of work for the better part of 19 of the 22 months. Some have gone back in, others need to go, if only because if this country does not stand up and walk again, people will fall through the cracks in ways that, my man, even you at the Nation with what? How many papers y'all selling now? Diminution. Every part. You watch Fareed Zakaria this morning, and you see all the shelves empty in the United States of America. The only time I got to see anything, because it had me going non-stop, was Friday night, midnight. I bent into a 24-hour CVS. That is the only thing I've seen in the 2 trips I made. And I went in there to buy some toiletries and some vitamins and things at midnight at night. And I was shocked. It's one thing for people to tell you, but it's another thing to walk through the great United States of America and see some shelves empty, largely because you got ships parked outside of ports in California, on the east coast of the United States, and can't get in. You got truckers waiting, can't get goods through. You got containers, can't leave China. You got to pay a special rate in order to secure a date for your container to leave. And that had nothing to do with the cost of the container going on the ship, you know. That's just to book a date and to block out somebody else from that date. The world is in a difficult place. And we need, therefore, to recognize that we have a responsibility to keep our people safe. And that is why I've tried as far as possible to be able to speak wherever possible with the opposition, wherever possible with the members of Parliament, to understand that we have now to lead at all levels. I've asked the members of Parliament to go through their communities to be able to deal with people who are anxious and who may be worried And if they need to talk to doctors who are not immediately available, help them talk to the doctors. I am proud that as of yesterday, we have 144,985, I think, vaccines, which is about 63.5%. But that is why, in speaking to the Vice President, Madam Vice President, I expressed our need to be able to have the additional vaccines that are likely to come to the Caribbean sooner rather than later, because some countries like ours have run out of the Pfizer. We have other ones. We have AstraZeneca. And in fact, we have taken a decision that we are going to need to be able to do and settle a policy this week, which I suspect they will announce tomorrow, as to the booster shots with the AstraZeneca that we have that may expire. But that is for tomorrow's discussions after I speak to Minister Bostic and the rest. But I know that Jeffrey was not going to stay, and John similarly. And I thank them for allowing me, as leader of the political party, to be able to help us plan out our business in an orderly fashion. It was John who said to me that he had in mind somebody, and I said, let me hear you. And he told me who he had in mind, and I smiled, and I said, boy, you listening to me when the night come. And he smiled too. I didn't tell you how. But we were surprisingly at Edom straight off. And we were therefore able to speak to the person to see whether the person has an interest. And the person, I believe, not only has a strong interest, but has started to speak to many members of the branch executive and to move around St. Philip West already. I am not titillating you. The truth is that we all know that that person is a daughter of St. Philip, and that person has come and has expressed her total willingness and commitment to work in the interests of the parish where she was born, and to recognize that having been the recipient of so much from this country, that she wants now to give back in every possible way that she can give back to the people of her nation. She went to primary school not far from here at St. Martin's Four Roads. So she understands what it is for a person who is going to public primary schools in this country, why it is so important for us to get them back into school as soon as possible, and not to be the victim of just the online classes, which you and I both know are way from satisfactory, way off from satisfactory in being able to ensure that our children can learn. And it's not just about the academics, it's about the social and emotional learning targets too. It's about being able to understand the discipline. It's about being able to know that you can beat the teacher in a game, but you still got to respect her because she's your elder. It's about the other things in life that help make you that person to be able to walk through the rites of passage and to be a good citizen in a good society. But it wasn't only that she did that. Kay was well-rounded from the beginning, and I refer to Kay McConney. She was the person who went and represented at age 9 part of Barbados' children's first experimental theater, John, which many of us knew was literally that vehicle that took a bunch of young children to carry Festa in Cuba in 1979. So she was representing this country from 9 years old in 1979 in Cuba. But it wasn't only there. How many of you know that she was an athlete? How many of you know that she was not only an athlete, but she was a persistent athlete? Because, you know, I keep saying that I'm a Jimmy Cliff girl, and that you can get it if you really want, but you must try and try and try. You'll succeed at last. McLaren looking at me and laughing. But the truth is that we know it. Because having run in 1982, at the Central American and Caribbean Games and being a double silver medalist. She wasn't done there. She went to Carifta and won a silver medals in 1983 in hurdles, and I remember that because she was just behind me at school, and that was the year I left school. But then she became a gold medalist in 1984 in the same Central American and Caribbean Games. And why am I telling you this? Because it don't matter to you whether she is sports or not, but it speaks to the character of the person who continued to build and build and build and build until she received excellence as she was required to do. And then she left and she went to study. And yes, Kay also went to Europe, recognizing that she wanted to expand her horizons. She wasn't prepared to be frightened by the fact that she didn't know anybody in Europe. Little girl from St. Philip. And she decided she's going to Europe after she finished studying to work and became one of the first stagiaires to work in the European Union coming from Barbados. Breaking new ground yet again. And when I became Minister of Youth Affairs, we didn't know each other well. As I said, I knew her from school as an athlete, but I didn't know anything else. Hadn't caught up with her. She had been in Europe, etc. And we put out the ads, we put out the feelers, and tutus, this young, bright woman turned up with an interest in heading up the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, which was being established for the first time in 1995. I can say without fear of contradiction that I know her work ethic. I can say without fear of contradiction that I know she will not stop until the job is done. And I had the good fortune thereafter then to work with her for a number of years before when Billy Miller started to cast her eyes around for a Consul General for Toronto. Billy came to me and said, we've been watching this young lady you have there in Youth Affairs, and we think she would make an excellent Consul General to represent this country in Toronto. And I said, I agree, except that I would be very sad to lose her in Youth Affairs. And of course, being a junior minister at the time, I could say what I said, but I really didn't have much say in the matter. And both Owen and Billy determined that she would go as Consul General to Toronto, and the rest is history. While being in Toronto, Kay didn't go and just settle. She went and broke new ground again, establishing the Barbados Ball, which has become the largest community fundraising event for the Barbadian community across Canada, full stop. And I had the good fortune of addressing it on different occasions. The genius of that ball is that it brought together people from all backgrounds and classes and pockets, and hence why it ended up being so successful in being able to give scholarships, particularly for Barbadians, and also covering aspects of healthcare for Barbadians and generally throughout wherever they were found, whether here, the wider Caribbean, or in Canada. In addition to that, she made serious progress working also with the business of the international business sector, because as you know, Barbados' greatest partner in the international business sector, particularly at that time, was Canada, pretty much still continues to be Canada, and therefore anybody there has to be able to help us build out that aspect of it. But as if that were not enough, they then decided, this girl performing well, she need to move from a Consul General, let me make her an ambassador. And Kay became our ambassador at Geneva and at the various UN agencies in Geneva, the World Trade Organization, WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, the World Health Organization, etc. And distinguished herself there until she decided she wanted to make a change yet again. She returned to Canada and opened her own business and remained there for a number of years until I harassed her and harassed her and harassed her to come back to her country and to help give back in the context of the cabinet, because I knew that the kind of brain that she had would help us unravel what would be now one of the biggest challenges, trying to bring the economy, the society, and the government into the 21st century with digitization and with innovation and science and technology. Many of you know already the horrors that you had to go and get a certificate of character before we came to government. The fact that you can do it seamlessly now, that is Kay McConney and her team. And I can go on ministry by ministry by ministry, whether it is paying certain taxes now online, whether it is dealing with the fact that we're getting ready to enroll, to roll out the Barbados National ID project, whether it is dealing with the fact that almost every government department's records need to be digitized. They already have people up the road, up there in Vaucluse, literally going through. And to say digitize, you can't just pick it up and scan it, so you know. Because these things down in boxes and files for decades in some instances. So you've got to put them and make them ready. You've got to clean them. You've got to make sure the paper is not brittle and destroyed. It's a whole complex process. And I thank her for staying the course and allowing the country to be able to move fully into the digital 21st century, because it is there that our young people will help us solve the problems, the great problems of our time, but also the small problems of our time. Things that will cause people to strips. Things that will cause people to say, man, do you believe I could talk to somebody on his phone and I can't even do X, Y, Z about it? But in everything, you have to break it down, and then you have to map the process, and then you've got to write software for it, and then you've got to test it, and then you've got to teach people how to use it. The fact that we could go on curfew and have passes done by QR code. Before, people would have had to sit down and write out them passes. You could imagine us managing the lockdowns we had before if we were not using a digital environment. It would have been crazy. So my friends, I have tried to lay out for you why I have confidence and John has confidence. And Mr. President, we will hand it over to you and the branch now to determine whether you have confidence. But if I was a betting woman, I suspect that the branch has mucho confidence as well in Kay McConney. And you know, there's a lot of work still to be done. Dwight is here, and we have already said that we have to make sure that we can get as many of our people being productive again, because we understand how this COVID thing has mashed up people's psyche. We understand how this COVID thing got some people even feeling as though they're fighting with themselves. Some people can't sleep at night, and we're saying we get it. But let us also help each other get out of it. Let me do the basic things to make ourselves feel good again. Let us do the exercises and the sports so that your body start to feel good. Let us start, you know, every time you see somebody, you can say a kind word to them. Make them feel good, make them smile. Because it is now about managing each day and making sure that you have the capacity within you to fight it up and to manage each day. And if we can do the safe zones, and if we can continue, in fact, in order for us to get to 75% of the eligible population, we have, let me get it right, because I want to make sure. We have another 26,000 odd vaccinations to do to get to that threshold that we would like as a nation. And my friends, when I first started talking about this, we were down in 105. We had 145. So we have done more than the amount since I've been asking you to walk this journey with us, which means that if we had have done that 40,000, since the beginning of September, end of August, early September, just under 30-something thousand. 26,000 is then within our reach. And if we can do that and make sure that we can protect as many of our people, then we can get back 145,000 almost Bajans. And it's more than that, because they tell me that they got a lot of people who carry the children away to get Pfizer when they didn't think we were getting Pfizer here. Where's here everything? So they're not in our records. And I would like to appeal to them to come forward and give them our records so that we can get an accurate number. The media can help us in getting that message out to them. Those of you who took your vaccines overseas, just come and register with us so we have a more accurate number, particularly as we get ready to go back into schools and those other things as we try to lay out the framework for the safe environment. But I have every confidence that you, the people of St. Philip West in this constituency, will come to see what I saw in Kay McConney and why I believe strongly that she has the ability to bring distinction in her representation to the people of St. Philip, the parish that raised her, the parish that nurtured her, and the parish to which she is committed. You know what I called Kay this afternoon when she was doing? Not afternoon, it was about around lunchtime. She was going to buy a whole set of stuff for some people who could not take care of themselves because of the quarantine and who wanted to be able to get some stuff for the children. And she said, no, I gotta get this. Don't mind, I got a branch meeting later. I gotta make sure I get this and carry this to the people. That is the kind of thing that makes me sit up and say yes quietly. I didn't tell her nothing. But when she can tell me in talking about this constituency and talk everybody named Denton from yours to Saltfish to Distant to everybody, Brenda, everybody. You understand? That is what it takes to marry what has to happen in representation. So my friends, I have every confidence that the team that we have in St. Philip, with Indar, who is in the back, who continues to do a stellar job, not only in representational politics, but in agriculture. I give him a rough time. I confess to that publicly. You don't need to ask anybody. But the reason why I give him a rough time is because he has the potential to turn the future of agriculture around in this country. Between the feed program, between what we are now doing with the Layers Land Lease program, between the number of water ponds and things that we've collected so that the people from River to Spring Hall to when we go in Layers can have access to water so that they can grow the food, so that they can sell, because God knows when those ships will stop coming too with food too. Let's get real. This is a different world in which we are living. And that's why you see me have the meetings that I had last week, from the Vice President to the Department of Defense to the NOAA, which deals, that's the department that deals with the oceans and the hurricanes, etc., because we need them also to continue to work with us and to help see if we can ultimately have planes positioned here that will go further out so that we can get a better sense of the accuracy of the systems coming into us. We need to work together in areas of defense and cybersecurity. There's real things. Because the extent to which you have ransomware attacking companies, attacking the governments across the world, we have to make sure that we have the resilience. And I understand that the world in which we live looks a lot different from the world in which this government was elected in May 2018. And that is why, John, I thank you for your brutal honesty, and I thank you for the fact that you said to me, look, let me run 300 miles per hour with these other projects and let someone else whose heart will be fully in this come and do at the representational level. And believe you me, I say to the people of St. Philip West that we will continue to be there with you. John has been doing an excellent job also in helping me to manage the Urban and Rural Development Commission. The truth is that the work of those two commissions have now been virtually diverted 100% to the recovery from Elsa and the freak storm. That's a fact, because we still have people who are waiting to be able to get back into their houses. And I want to thank all of the public-spirited institutions, from Codrington College to the Barbados Workers Union Labour College to a number of private individuals who have helped us as far as possible make sure that these people do not have to face the elements when the night comes and when the additional rain and others come. Who's the other one? Baptist. Spiritual Baptists as well, whose apartments, over 16 apartments that they had. Believe you me, that's what I mean when I say about this country coming together to fight the big battles and the small battles. And we have seen it each time. When we do it together, we're always stronger and better. And I am happy. There are other things that I will relate to the country about the visit that I had in the last few days relating to the economic side of it, but now is not the time for that. The bottom line is that we are moving forward and moving forward stronger. We recognize, like every other part of the world, that there's something called COVID fatigue with a lot of people. But my friends, if you're going to get tired of COVID, then you have to protect yourself from COVID. And if you're going to protect yourself, there are multiple ways. If you don't want the vaccination, then do the testing. If you start to feel ill earlier you tell us, the more the doctors can save you. I am going to sound like a stuck record on that point because people need to know it like ABC. If you start to feel bad, if you don't have a smell, if you don't have a taste, if you start to get a sore throat, any of these symptoms, a little bit of diarrhea, go and get tested. When I went to Washington this week, I had to wait. The White House sent to test us, and then I had to quarantine for the next 4 hours before going to see the White House, to the executive office, to see the Vice President. And there are things that we can do so that testing is valid. And that is why this government has said safe zones, vaccination, or recent tests within the last 24 to 48 hours. Okay? In terms of certain places of work, you go through, and the Ministry of Health is working with the different sectoral people to determine what is the appropriate timing for testing given the risk of the particular department. Not every department, not every institution has the same risk. By the same token, we understand our young people want to get back out there to do things, entertainment, sports, etc. We got to get the protocols right. We're going to get the legislative framework right, and we're going to do it the right way. So my friends, I want to thank all of you. We are fighting battles. But as I said, so long as we can fight these battles together, we will then be able to come out. Sonia Brown, I also want to thank Sonia. Sonia is not here this evening because she had another commitment, and when we spoke to her, she asked for us to make the apology. But believe you me, I am very, very comfortable and confident with the work that we have been rolling out in St. Philip, from the roads to what we're about to do with the sporting fields, to what we've been doing with the houses and the people whose houses were lost, including some who, as we speak, are about to be the beneficiary of getting back into theirs. And I look forward to being able to continue to do for the people ranging from the Christchurch end in Lowthers and St. Patrick's, right back up to the St. Philip end, going to Halton and Chapel, Ebenezer, Burton, all around. And you will continue to see me. It's true that they got some good pudding and sauce up here too that causes me to come up on occasion. And I will confess, John, to bringing President Kenyatta to go and get some and introduce him to pudding and sauce, and it was done in the parish of St. Philip, in the constituency of St. Philip West. And he was very, very taken in with the pudding and sauce, so I'm glad that I was able to do that. So thank you, my friends, Denton. I look forward to meeting with the executive, as does the rest of the party's executive, and us putting things in place as soon as possible, because no one knows when the Son of Man cometh, and no one knows when the bell shall be called. Thank you and good night. That, Blake, Wilfred, John, who missing? Cindy? First Vice Chairman, come over here. Maybe it didn't use some knocks. The truth is that COVID has its own moments. So, this is somebody walking here and talking to that. I want to reach in the bumps and evening is going to bring distinction to this constituency. Now that that business is out of the way, let us come now to the business of the Barbados Labour Party. Colleagues, as chairman of this party, I discussed with the conference arrangements person, and we have made a determination that given the fact that we are in this surge, we had made provisions for us to go to the drive-in, to comply with the protocols, but the kind of response that we are getting from people, I have decided to take in front before in front take us. Because I understand that people are excited and they want to come, they feel that they want to associate with us, so sometimes you have to say, hold tight. And therefore we have agreed that we will postpone the conference for now, and let us focus 150% on getting this surge back down, because that is our duty as a people first. And by your applause and response, I take it that you are in agreement with the decision that the party has made. Thank you very much. We will let you know. And when it is a responsible thing, and it is the reality that all of us are in this together. And I therefore know that if I'm doing this, I can't be doing that. So let us try and see what we can do and get the safe zones going, get the remaining numbers of people vaccinated, and get as many people safe as possible. If you know there's somebody in your family who has not been, talk with them. If they have concerns about the doctor, call us and we will put you in contact with a doctor to talk with them. Similarly, if you know that somebody in your family not feeling well, tell them come. There's no time to sit down and say you waiting or you ain't ready yet. Because the only thing that when you keep saying you ain't ready yet, death can come and you can be ready then. Because you ain't got a chance to say you ain't ready yet when death comes. So let us understand that all of us can play our part, but by the same token, we have to get on with life. Because if we don't get on with life, people will not be able to feed their families, people will not be able to keep sane, people will not be able to keep their jobs, people will not be able to keep their businesses. And I have every confidence that just as our grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents faced this and more, because they faced the Spanish flu, but they faced it coming out of a world war, and they faced it coming out without a house that they own, and they faced it coming out without electricity and without running water most of the time. And they made it and made it possible for all of us to come along and to be the people that we are today. We owe it to them to show that we can be equal to the task and provide for our children who are to come in the same way that they were equal to the task of the times and provided for us to come. So it's not easy, my friends, but as God is our guide, I know that we have it within us to make this journey. And I ask myself sometimes, how come? It is not for us to ask how come, I've learned. It is for us to accept and to simply get on with the job and stay focused, do the right thing, and never stop caring. Thank you and God bless.
It's going to take 2 more minutes before we close off the meeting because we know we still have the protocols to follow and so on. But I want to sum up Kay quickly in 2 words because I have met her, we spoke off and on. But when I see Kay, the words that come are drive and determination. That is what I see in Kay. And Kay St. Philip West is more than willing to work with you, and we are eager to hold your hand and go on with this journey. I also want to thank Madam Prime Minister for addressing this meeting this evening. I also want to thank her for letting everyone know what is going on within Barbados. We sang from the same hymn sheet when I came and spoke here about the need to speak to others regarding COVID, the protection, the safety, and so on, because we need to get back things to normal as soon as possible. Continue to spread the word, ladies and gentlemen. Continue to be of good courage. Continue to do that our Prime Minister have asked for. And before we finally close, I also want to say, look at it this way. other countries are begging for our prime minister to be their prime minister. Aren't you proud? And this is what we want. This is what the world outside is seeing, that we have such a good prime minister, and they want even their leaders to adapt and be like our prime minister. We are a proud Barbados, and we want to do what is required to bring us back to peace and safety and get us back to the level where we are at. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good night. Get home safe. Thank you for coming.